This meeting has a further distinction. On the 1st of this month, Cameroon became the 52nd member of the Commonwealth and is represented here today by President Paul Biya. I extend a warm welcome to the President and his delegation.
A nearly 14,000 miles flight distance from Yaoundé, Cameroon, the giant of the Central Africa Economic and Monetary Community. This is Auckland, New Zealand, in 1995.
Cameroon's membership marks a true watershed in the evolution of the Commonwealth. It is evidence of a Commonwealth loyal to its origins, but in no way beholden to the past.
The love story is 8 years old. The admission of Cameroon into the Gentlemen's Club, the Commonwealth of Nations that is, has been described by many as one of the most important diplomatic victories in the Biya administration. After close to 10 years of a frontline negotiation, Cameroon gained her membership into the Commonwealth of Nations in Auckland, New Zealand in 1995 and was given the number 52.
Basically, our joining the Commonwealth was a way for the head of state to project to the world who we are as a country which has had relations with the English culture in its past, a country which has had relations with the French culture in its past. Until we joined the Commonwealth, we had engagements with countries of the French culture. And there was this impression in our diplomacy that Cameroon was a French-speaking country. And the head of state, in his usual wisdom, took the decision to engage Cameroon on these two pillars, which constitute an element of our diplomacy, which is the fact that Cameroon is bilingual, bicultural, and bijural. And that's why he joined the Commonwealth.
A champion of multiculturalism through linguistic pluralism, the Commonwealth, with a combined gross domestic product of about $13 trillion, currently possibly needed just Cameroon to be a complete organization.
It's not every person who wants to join the Commonwealth who is indeed accepted. There must be a certain background, there must be a certain qualification. And Cameroon, as you know, did have antecedents with the Commonwealth. We were, if you like, a colony of Great Britain, even though it was not a colony legally speaking, but we were administered as a colony of Great Britain. And that, of course, is a historical backdrop in terms of admission into the Commonwealth. But that is not the only reason why we joined the Commonwealth. You would know that after attaining independence for a long time, there was, if you like, a sort of isolationism as far as Cameroon was concerned. We didn't join the Commonwealth, we didn't join the Francophonie. And I think that when President Biya took over the helm of power in 1982, he realized that something had to change. We couldn't continue to stay on the sidelines of such major international institutions. And that is when he started gradually to seek our entry into the Commonwealth. This process started way back in 1985 and it came to fruition in 1995 when, after a lot of discussions, a lot of visits by the officials of the Commonwealth, we were finally in Auckland granted admission into this august institution.
Remember the context of our joining the Commonwealth. It was in the early 90s when we had issues in the countries, in our country, in the two English-speaking regions. And to show the importance he, the head of state, attached to our English language culture being projected to the world, he decided to create a post in the Ministry of External Relations for a minister to be in charge of relations with the Commonwealth, a minister delegate. I think you would see that this cabinet level position actually projected to the world the fact that Cameroon was not a French-speaking country, but that Cameroon was a bilingual country. So it's a cabinet level position, but the organigram of the ministry has a department in charge of relations with the Commonwealth, which deals on a daily basis with all the aspects of our relations with the Commonwealth, which serves as a focal point of all the multi-dimensional relations between Cameroon and the Commonwealth.
Today, a family of almost 3 billion people. The entry of Cameroon into the Commonwealth 30 years ago was one of the most celebrated moments in the history of the organization.
Although the structure of these Commonwealth meetings has rightly evolved with the times, I would like to think that they retain their unique character. It is not just a question of being able to communicate in the same language, but of being able to work in a family environment, of making decisions, sometimes difficult ones, by consensus, and of stimulating genuine dialogue at such meetings, not only around the conference table, but in less formal groups in the corridors and at the retreats. I would also like to think that the organization has been able to retain its fundamental principles and values, be they democracy, human rights, and the rule of law, or gender equality, or sustainable development.
The Commonwealth engaged our government in terms of helping it live up to the values and principles of the Commonwealth. A transparent system of government, the rule of law, respect for human rights, and all of that. Talking about the rule of law, you know, the Commonwealth has engaged our judicial authorities in terms of the way our judicial system is structured. For example, before we joined the Commonwealth, penitentiary services were attached to the Ministry of Territorial Administration. But the Commonwealth engaged our country and it is now attached to the Ministry of Justice. What's the difference? When it was attached to the Ministry of Home Affairs or Territorial Administration, a detainee could be waiting trial for a very long time without the possibility of being seen by a judge or by the State Council. Now, because it is part of the Ministry of Justice, that possibility exists. But still in this area, you may wish to know or remember that the Commonwealth also engaged us in the process of reforming our Criminal Procedure Code. The Criminal Procedure Code was written with the help of the Commonwealth Magistrates and Lawyers Association, and it is about 90% habeas corpus based. That is why all over the country you have concepts like the cross-examination, which is a strictly Commonwealth concept which now applies all over the country.
A perfect example of multiculturalism, one of the key values of the Commonwealth, Cameroon with plus 250 ethnicities joined the Commonwealth within a well-defined context.
The decision was actually a translation from rhetoric to practical action of the policy of Paul Biya, President Paul Biya, as far back as almost a decade ago. And you must have heard that in 1986, he said, Cameroon is not an exclusive reserve of anybody, nor any great power. This was during his official visit in Germany in 1986. And this was subsequently reflected in his book, Communal Liberalism. And following that, he continued to diversify the relations between Cameroon and many other countries abroad. And that decision was followed by, 3 years later on, by the invitation of Cameroon to the Commonwealth Summit, next Commonwealth Summit in Malaysia in 1989. And of course, the climax was in 1995, where the president himself was there.
The three main pillars of Bia's diplomacy are based on the preservation and the protection of our sovereignty, and secondly, to make sure that Cameroon should never interfere, non-interference in any country's domestic affairs. And also the third pillar, I did say it, is the settlement of conflicts, any different or any conflict between countries by dialogue and respect. So it is based on these three pillars that the President of the Republic has really articulated his own and main objective in diplomacy.
Within the framework of this diplomacy of active presence and diplomacy without frontiers, the first thing we want to know is that in order to concretize or to make concrete this new diplomacy, the first thing that has happened or that happened in our diplomatic machinery is that the Ministry of External Relations itself was reorganized. We shouldn't forget that it used to be called the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But given the new diplomacy, the new appellation has been Cameroon, the Ministry of External Relations. And with that new appellation, the ministry has been organized in such a way that you have three ministers at the ministry. One Minister of State, meaning that that is the level at which our diplomacy has been upgraded. And that Minister of State is assisted by two minister delegates, one in charge of Islamic affairs, one in charge of Commonwealth affairs. And given this new framework of active presence and a diplomacy without frontiers, we have expanded the frontiers of our diplomacy. Cameroon now belongs to the Commonwealth and the Islamic world and the Francophonie at the same time. This was not the case in the 60s and 70s.
The Commonwealth engaged the government in terms of our political evolution, significantly in terms of electoral reform. You know all the engagements we had in terms of putting in place ONEL 1, ONEL 2, and today ELECAM. Those are the contributions of the Commonwealth in terms of our institutional development. But as you know, in all of this area, is one thing putting in place the institution, but another building human capacity. And the Commonwealth has engaged us. Commonwealth as an organization, but Commonwealth member states also. Because one of the advantages of being a member of Commonwealth is that you have the opportunity to share best practices with many other countries of the Commonwealth.
Just like his participation at the Commonwealth Summit in Abuja, Nigeria, President Paul Biya personally led the Cameroonian delegation at the Auckland Summit in New Zealand, in which the plurilingual country became the 52nd member of the organization.
Je suis très heureux d'avoir participé pour la première fois comme
I'm happy to have participated for the first time at the Commonwealth Summit as member in Auckland.
Cette participation
This participation is a confirmation of our admission into this great international organization.
Internationale. Avant d'aller plus loin, je tiens à remercier d'abord les chefs d'État, membres du Commonwealth.
I want, first of all, to thank the heads of state, members of the Commonwealth, for their support in the admission of Cameroon. Because, as you know, decisions are taken unanimously. Cameroon has been received with a lot of work, with a lot of sympathy, and we notice that much of the work was based on three areas of interest.
Porté sur trois groupes de centres d'intérêt, la déclaration d'Harare,
the Harare Declaration and the respect for democratic principles. Those were the first problems to be handled.
Nous avons noté que le Commonwealth attache une grande importance à la promotion de la
We've also noticed that the Commonwealth attaches great importance to the promotion of democracy, the respect for human rights and the state of law. Cameroon abides by this way of doing things. We found ourselves in the middle of an organization marked by conviviality, human warmth, and the attachment to democratic values and human rights. All of this in a perfect symbiosis with our politics and principles.
There has been some form of a cross-pollination of ideas. Cameroon, it's a member of the Francophonie and a member of the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth has benefited from some of the good things the Francophonie does through Cameroon and Canada. And member states of the Commonwealth benefit a lot by the fact that Cameroon is a member of the Commonwealth. I'm talking about those countries which may wish to invest in the French-speaking sphere, take advantage of the fact that Cameroon has, with its number of neighboring Commonwealth Francophonie countries or French-speaking countries, a common commercial law, common fiscal law, a common economic space. And so countries like Malaysia, Singapore, even Nigeria may invest in these countries through Cameroon. The Commonwealth benefits significantly through its membership, through our membership. That is not the only thing. Through our membership, the Commonwealth has expanded. As you know, the Commonwealth initially was made of countries formerly of the British Dominion. But when the Commonwealth changed its focus from its historical foundation to an organization whose objective was to promote values and principles, other countries found it quite attractive. And so there was a modification in the membership which then stated that certain countries which may not have been initially part of the English Dominion, but which had relations with countries which are members of the Commonwealth can join. And that is how, because Gabon is in the same economic union with Cameroon, Gabon could join the Commonwealth through Cameroon.
Clearly, Cameroon's entry into the Commonwealth, host to about 30 of the world's smallest nations, fell squarely into the geopolitical expansion policy championed by its president, Paul Biya.
You know, the Commonwealth is the second most important organization after the UN. In terms of the size, it is home to about 60% of UN member countries. And it hosts 1/3 of the world's population. And then the Commonwealth has some of the most influential players in the world of diplomacy, the so-called ABCN. That is Australia, Britain, Canada, and New Zealand. So these are some of the things that Cameroon wanted to tap and gain from the leveraging power of these countries, these powers, which are members of the Commonwealth.
One of the highest ticks of political engagements between Cameroon and the Commonwealth is the exchange of high-level visits, evidenced here by the presence at the Unity Palace of the chief scribes of the organization.
Chief Emeka Anyauku, Secrétaire Général du Commonwealth.
Very well, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Sit down, please.
Thank you.
How did you spend the last night?
That was pleasant. Yes.
And when do you intend to leave? Chief Emeka, nous vous faisons grand officier de l'ordre de la valeur.
Monsieur President, I am grateful to you, very grateful to you for this. Thank you.
Well, this is it. Bien, merci. Bon, vous avez mis ça. You have here the explanation. It is a local, comment on dit pipe en anglais? But the pipe, a traditional pipe.
Yes.
I think you will smoke very good from this tobacco.
I put some tobacco in there and smoke. Thank you very much.
It is a little bit heavy, but...
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very, very much. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yes. You don't want me to smoke it?
Thank you very much. And I think, thank you very much for your visit. I think I will see you again in the coming weeks.
Yes, yes. Next time when I come here, I will not
let me know. Let me know.
I have been honored and be privileged to attend the Commonwealth meetings for a long time. Before I got into this position, I used to be a director of the Commonwealth, so I attended to many of these meetings. And I do remember in one of the meetings, I had a direct engagement with now King Charles. He was then Prince Charles. And he asked me questions about Cameroon, and particularly about the challenges we face in our socio-political development in the North and Southwest region. And as I was about to volunteer answers, the members of the royal court came and told me, no, you cannot keep the prince for more than 2 minutes. And the prince told them, no, I have all the time for him. And it was such a pleasure that he let me engage him to explain certain things to him. And I was impressed with the attention he paid to detail, the question he asked me.
And best known as an institution with an indelible mark on democracy, justice and the rule of law, the Commonwealth has been pivotal in the key reforms in Cameroon.
One thing I can tell you, the president loves the Commonwealth. And because of that, the Commonwealth has carried out very important reforms in Cameroon. He has attended many of the summits, like the one you're talking about, Abuja and so forth. And many of the very important reforms that have been carried out in Cameroon, for example, take the Ministry of Finance. The debt management system was with the work of the Commonwealth. The reforms of the public service, what called CJPS, it was the reforms that it was due to Commonwealth technical assistance. If you look at the prison system, the organization of the prison system was the Commonwealth. Penitentiary administration. Yeah, penitentiary administration. And ELECAM was thanks to the technical assistance of the Commonwealth. And very importantly, the legal system, harmonizing harmony between the English and French versions.
The criminal procedure code.
Procedure, yes, that's right.
The penitentiary administration and elections Cameroon are some key essential sectors of life usually reformed with the assistance of the Commonwealth.
There was this also called the Cameroon Presidential Commonwealth, the Presidential Commonwealth Commission, where many of these meetings were supervised strictly by the head of state for some of these reforms to be made. Those are very, very hardcore reforms that have been made in Cameroon thanks to the Commonwealth. And Anyaku has been to Cameroon many times. He's a special friend of the head of state. In fact, when we send the lists of technical assistance needs to the Commonwealth, we were told that as soon as Anyaku saw something about Cameroon, he gave approval without even looking at. A host of development projects and technical assistance projects were carried out in Cameroon.
The partnership between Cameroon and the Commonwealth has been extremely beneficial, with the election of Cameroonians in positions within the organization.
I think the biggest change personally came right from my family, because when I started doing what I was doing with very difficult educational background, very difficult acceptance from family, this was the first time that publicly it was shown that the little things I was doing was worth continue doing. And I remember even my father, who used to believe that I could become maybe a doctor, a lawyer or something else, came to realize that what I was doing could bring glory, could bring smiles on their faces. And this was the first transformation that it did. The second thing which I'm sure personally did to me was to say, Christian, keep doing, keep believing. But it reminded me that I had to do everything it takes to help and develop other young people like myself. But in terms of the bigger vision, when it comes to Cameroon and the Commonwealth, I think I was the first young Cameroonian to be able to benefit from this recognition. But my hope was not to become the last, but to create spaces for other opportunities. I remember because of this success that we have as a nation, when the Commonwealth Secretariat created a program on counter-violent extremism, Cameroon was seen as a priority, because we, as the Commonwealth Young Person of the Year in the thematic on peace, security, and countering violent extremism, the Commonwealth saw Cameroon as a priority country, and they were able to see that the challenges we had of Boko Haram, young people are working hard to provide solutions for, but they needed more support. I think also strategically, after this recognition, I had the opportunity to start serving with the Commonwealth at the level of London, where I was providing support as a coordinator for the Youth Peace Ambassadors Network. And during this period, it was an opportunity for me to leverage on this recognition to do advocacy, to do lobbying, and to be able to drive change. And one of them is that during the 2018 Commonwealth Head of Government meeting, Cameroon led the advocacy towards Commonwealth member states to adopt the Youth Peace and Security Agenda, which was framed by the UN Security Council.
Youth empowerment through the elimination of violent extremism and sports promotion has been another area of agreement between Cameroon and the Commonwealth.
I think the Commonwealth has did a lot for the Cameroonian youth in their development activities. First of all, I think many young Cameroonians benefited from the Commonwealth Youth Credit Initiative. That's those entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs benefited from that initiative. They are in decision making. I think also they supported some youth associations in different domains. Many Cameroonian, young Cameroonian were awarded, for example, the Commonwealth Leaders Award in the domain of countering violent extremism and so on and so forth. So I think the young Cameroonian benefited from a lot of initiative from the Commonwealth and the government as well. You know, the colloquium on civic education in 2013 was organized thanks to the support of the Commonwealth. The Deputy Secretary General was here to organize, to participate in that colloquium that founded the vision for the promotion of civic education, the strategies for volunteerism, and so on and so forth. So I think this was an important tool, the basis for the youth policy and the civic education policy. Cameroon, through our head of state, has a flair for winning ways. If you take the case of the incoming Secretary General of the Commonwealth, when she indicated in Rwanda that she would wish to run for the position, I mean, for an election which was more than 2-3 years off, the head of state was the first to say, no, we think that is a good candidate, we should formally support her. And Charles, the day she was elected in Samoa, Apia, she was coming back to the hotel, and the Cameroonian delegation happened to be in the same hotel, and we were having a drink. And she came and greeted us and went up. Then I said, look, we are responsible we laid the groundwork for our success. I asked one of the members of my delegation to go and tell her that we were waiting for her downstairs. And she obliged, came downstairs to meet us and thank us formally for supporting her candidacy when nobody thought she had a chance.
Cameroon and the Commonwealth equally work together to mainstream advocacy amongst the young.
I think one of the greatest value is the youth sector. The Commonwealth had a whole division for youth, which no other international organization had by then. If we see the National Youth Council today, it's a product of the Commonwealth and the way in which it was shaped. If you look at youth movements today in Cameroon, because they used to have Commonwealth clubs from secondary school right to university, and I'm a product of that process. That grooms you, that shapes you, that teaches you value. I also think that what the Commonwealth has instilled in Cameroonians are values, you know, about impartiality, about, you know, working together, about consensus oriented. These are basic things which these clubs help to transform. I think on a more strategic level, in terms of relationships as well, I think the Commonwealth has greatly shaped, you know, Cameroon's ability to connect with member states beyond, you know, our borders. We are looking at the Caribbean, for example, you know, it strengthens collaboration. I also think that Cameroon has received enormous support when it comes to, you know, peace building, democracy, preventing violent extremism, which are core issues in our context. The Commonwealth has been able to support us in setting up systems, in setting up policies, in implementing, and also in ensuring that the civic space is provided with support. If you look at the whole Commonwealth Fund, which Foundation Fund, which supports civil society movement, I think these are some of the tangible and palpable things which the Commonwealth has been able to bring when it comes to our relationship.
Many seminars were organized in favor of some youth-led initiatives. For example, to countering violent extremism, the Commonwealth supported many seminars to train youth ambassadors, youth peace ambassadors here in Cameroon. And I think there are many who are involved in the peace building in those regions in insecurity. So this is a great achievement within the cooperation with the Commonwealth.
Established that a majority of the Commonwealth population is young, the Cameroonian model has been explored too by the organization for the promotion of shared values.
All the time we share the best practices, and you know the Cameroonian youth policy is pioneer, and we used to share our experiences in the domain of youth programs, youth development programs, with other countries that are very appreciated. I can tell you about, for example, the 3-year special youth plan that the head of this has launched in 2016 was shared with the other ministers, and the same, the countering violent extremism, for example, strategy was also shared, because when the Boko Haram started, and so there were many strategies that were put in place, and we shared with other countries. So I think, you know, the National Youth Policy of the President Paul Biya is pioneer, and it inspires other countries, but we also see this opportunity to capitalize the other experiences of the Commonwealth, particularly in the domain of entrepreneurship, as I said, the other participation, good governance, and so on and so forth.
A strategic Commonwealth member in the Central African sub-region, Cameroon is today host to the Central Africa Regional Hub of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, hosted by the National Shippers Council of Cameroon.
The scope of our mandate falls between what was given to the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council in 2014 by the heads of state and government of the Commonwealth to facilitate, promote, and grow intra-Commonwealth trade and investment across the 56 member nations. This is where our mandate has been over the years. And critical areas we look at are those that align with national government priorities. For example, I will start with Cameroon. We have been working over the years within the framework of the National Development Strategy to identify entering points for other investors across the Commonwealth, and then also look at how we can direct trade within Commonwealth countries by sharing information available to all our network. We have 14 offices across the 56 countries covering the entire Commonwealth of Nations. So we share through the network of regional hubs and country offices the opportunities that we have in Cameroon, which are then ventilated into the countries. And then feedback is given to us. We direct them to the various institutions that are mandated to drive the specific aspects we are looking at. So that's what we've been doing. And then we're also building on events like the Commonwealth Business Forum, which is our flagship program, which brings on board policymakers, C-suite business executives, researchers, and other players within the trade and investment landscape to discuss and come up with ways in which we can resolve policy hurdles.
If you look at the opportunities that entrepreneurs can benefit or can tap from the Commonwealth, it's enormous. When we talk about business, you're talking about numbers, you're talking about the market. We are talking about 2.5 billion people. What a magic. If you have an opportunity to do business with 2.5 billion people, then without any iota of doubt and no point of contempt, then your feet on the right track of business history. It's clear. And if you look at other things that the Cameroon might have benefited in terms of scholarships and many other things, I think it's just worth saying we are in the right direction. And I want to encourage the government to continue to build this relationship, because it's for the interest of the Cameroonian people, and more especially a huge opportunity for the private sector.
At the moment, more than 10 Cameroonian companies in both the public and private sectors have joined the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council as strategic partners.
Asking a question to somebody who owns a commercial depot, that are you selling? Of course, you know the person is actually selling to make profit. That's the destination. English is the first language of the world. And if we're talking about the English language, we're talking about the Commonwealth. As a strategic partner, we saw huge opportunities, lots of opportunities, which we wanted to take advantage of, and which we are still already exploring and exploiting and taking advantage of these opportunities. And I want to thank the head of state, President Paul Biya, for his continuous effort in pushing the private sector to take advantage of those huge opportunities. And I equally want to encourage and say thank you to Biya's envoy for the Commonwealth, Minister Felix Mbayu, who takes this personally, encourages entrepreneurs, fly with them, discuss with them, eat with them, network with them, pilot with them, and try to crush business with them. Not just giving orders, but being there actively to ensure that the Cameroonian entrepreneurs or the private sectors taking part in these meetings go home with a full package or with a paycheck.
Let me take the case of Cameroon. where we've been for the longest period of time compared to the other countries you've cited. We've been able to assist in securing partnerships between Cameroon Water Utility Cooperation with two of our strategic partners who are currently deploying their activities in the localities that we identified. And then we are also working with the Ministry of Secondary Education to digitalize secondary education in Cameroon. We've had a test experience with the ministry for well over 1 year, where digital panels were provided as a donation by one of our strategic partners to the Ministry of Secondary Education to be able to experiment distance learning and see how they can roll out at the global level in the country. And I think that is why, as we speak now, Promethean Education World, which is one of our strategic partners, is currently working with the Ministry of Secondary Education to roll out distance learning equipment to over 350 schools in Cameroon.
Each time the Commonwealth of Learning is organizing a conference, Cameroonians are invited. And you know why? The fact of Cameroon's bilingual educational system is such an attraction. Each time I attend these conferences, they're amazed at how we run the two systems side by side without any problems. And when we explain to them, they look at us in awe because they say that is such value that you will not find anywhere else but in Canada. And even in Canada, I think some parts are French, some parts are English, and it's a bilingual country. But in Cameroon, most of our schools are bilingual and they teach both French and English to children from either a Francophone background or an Anglophone background. So that is a novelty, and that is what we take to them all the time, always, and they are really, really interested in finding out how this is done. And they say, okay, they will use maybe our paradigm to introduce maybe Spanish in some of their countries and other languages that a majority of their populations may need to know.
The choice of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council for Cameroon to host its Central Africa Regional Hub is an eloquent testimony of the trust the organization has in the country.
How can you do business in the world and consider yourself a global player where you don't speak English, where you don't actively take part in what the Commonwealth is doing? 2.5 billion people, that market. What's the population of the world? If you have access to 2.5 billion people, that's the direct impact. But don't forget to understand that it has a chain reaction, which means that it doesn't limit itself to just 2.5 billion people, because there are some countries that are predominantly French-speaking that you're going to tap into it. And these French-speaking countries also have extensions in other organizations. So we shouldn't only be limiting ourselves to 2.5 billion people, because there is a chain reaction which can even go further to 3.5 billion people. Why not more? So if you want to be a global player, if you want to take part in the global scene, then you have to actively be involved. If you look at it critically well, Cameroon is a member of the Commonwealth. The question is, are we taking advantage of it? Yes, but there is still more.
The Commonwealth advantage is of immense commercial interest to the Cameroonian business class.
Those of us who are entrepreneurs, we have accessibility to markets. What is it going to be more than gold for you as an entrepreneur to have access to market? That's the key. And I can say that the Shako Holdings, which constitute 10 different companies, we are already operating in 22 countries, employing 1,611 people. Guess what? Because of the relations, the strong relations that exist between Cameroon and the Commonwealth, we've been able to establish our office in the heart of London, the assistance of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, which we are a strategic partner. Like I said, after the Brexit, you will still agree with me that London still stands out as the financial capital of the world. And we're tapping into this. Deals are being sealed. Exchange are being made. Connections are going on. Networking is going on. It's all about doing business. And I think that it's a process. We are doing things and we'll continue to do things because the opportunities there are enormous.
Inter-Commonwealth trade builds on a massive competitive advantage, 21% cheaper doing business from one Commonwealth country to the other. I just want you to look at the picture. Commonwealth businesses that are anchored in Cameroon. When you look at their recruitment profile, what do you notice? There is a common factor. English, because the whole system, the reporting system internally is English. So any secondary language that on board will require translation and need for understanding, which delays the process. And then across the Commonwealth, with a legal framework, a business moving from one Commonwealth to the country to the other to invest already has acquired knowledge in terms of the legal framework of the country where they are anchored, compared to when you are moving from one legal system, maybe from the common law system to the civil law system, where you need to comply with completely a different architecture of regulatory requirements. That takes you cost in terms of compliance and then time as well. For example, you can fly into Rwanda, which has moved Anglo-Saxon to do business. You've been in Ghana. You already know some of the commonalities, which are Commonwealth values in this country. It will take you, I'm just trying to put an example, because in reality it takes you 6 hours to register a business in Rwanda and you move out. But when you go to a different country which has a different language, which is a different culture, first you need a translator and you start looking for a law firm which has people who can speak the language which you speak, will translate documents into the language which you understand, and translation normally alters the original mindset of the legislator, which can create issues of litigations. So these are some of the values that the Commonwealth has.
In my capacity as a president of the Young African Entrepreneurs, I will encourage my compatriots, Cameroonians, young people who are the future of this nation, to take advantage of these opportunities. Because if you don't take advantage of these opportunities, others will play the role that you would have played and lead. Cameroonians were very intelligent, we were very smart. But are we taking advantage of the opportunities that lie ahead of us? We are trying, but we can still improve because there is a space for that. So I can only encourage young Cameroonians to take advantage of these opportunities so that we can do business. We can do business.
Over 900 civil organizations network with a myriad of structures of the Commonwealth, amongst them the Commonwealth Games, in which Cameroon has made huge blueprints.
Interestingly, in 2016, the whole idea of the Commonwealth Young President of the Year was an intention of the Commonwealth to celebrate young people from across the 53 member states who are exceptional in what they do, who have received tremendous support from community, from government, and that their work is seen. And in 2016, I had this distinguished honor where the work that we were leading in Cameroon was recognized. And to me, it was not a pat on the back for me as a Cameroonian, but it was a testament that young Cameroonians are very resilient and that they are ready to do their best to make their communities better. And during this ceremony itself, having had the opportunity to meet with the late Queen Elizabeth II, I think the message was even stronger to our peers that we need to keep serving, because doing good for community is not good for yourself, but could be able to open you up to more opportunities. And I think since 2016, this has inspired so many young people in Cameroon to keep serving. This has greatly also inspired Cameroon Commonwealth relationship, as this opportunity gave me a platform to showcase that young Cameroonians believe in the Commonwealth and they are ready to keep serving to make the Commonwealth inspiring for its people.
The impact of the Commonwealth on young Cameroonians in particular has been of extraordinary touch to the attachment to market Cameroon as a soft power tool.
The Commonwealth of Learning is the exact body within the Commonwealth system that collaborates with us in our educational system. And they have done quite a lot to help Cameroonians in teacher training, in digital advancement, in youth development, and also in policy making. You know, with teacher training, they have done quite a lot to improve the level of our teachers, to introduce digital learning in our schools, to introduce ICTs in our schools. So they've trained teachers to be able to handle this and to handle innovations in this area. There's been a lot of scholarships that they've also granted to young people to study out and to make sure that especially the girls, the young ones get into the STEM education, so that tomorrow STEM education will be something that is really current. They've also helped us in the vocational training area.
Education is a pillar of the Cameroon Commonwealth connections, with over 2,000 Cameroonians to have benefited from the Commonwealth scholarships, whose training has provided transformational leadership in the country.
On the policy level, there are lots of policy documents that the Commonwealth is working with Cameroon to put up. You know, there's a body of Commonwealth ministers that meet from time to time to look at educational policies that would help each country depending on their situation. And I would think that this policy development is a good thing. At the moment, I think the Ministry of Higher Education is developing a policy document on digital learning. You know, that has been the in thing. Secondary education is doing quite a lot on digital and distance learning as well. And all of this is with the impetus and the support of the Commonwealth of Learning, which is the part of the Commonwealth that really impacts us.
The Commonwealth of Learning and their university system have enabled the Commonwealth and Cameroon to share experiences for a better school system.
After we attended the Commonwealth of Learning conference in Canada, Cameroon obtained an award of about 16 million to train teachers on inclusive education. You know, inclusivity is one of the things that the world is pushing, especially in education. No child should be left behind because they have one impairment or the other. So the training on inclusive education was something that they did, and the Minister of Basic Education is picking that up because the director is already working on a project to present to the minister so that we can train more teachers in inclusivity. To have inclusive education done, you need to also find all the categories of problems that the children have, because you cannot just get into a class and imagine that the child who does not hear will be treated like the child who does not see. So we are doing a statistics of the kinds of impairment that our children have so as to adapt the teaching to suit their individual inconveniences.
Today, a proud signatory of the Commonwealth Blue Charter, an embodiment of the Commonwealth values, Cameroon remains committed to a better world within the Commonwealth family.